All right, let's try and do a quick walkthrough of enumerator.py. Down here, I just have the help menu open, just so you can take a quick look at it. And let's go. So enumerator.py is going to help us do some enumeration. 192.168.552. Now, if you wanted to run it the way at default, then you could just hit enter and run it right there. And by default, it is going to check all IPs. But to make it a little quicker, I'm going to modify it just a bit. So if you want to run your own nmap scan, you can do that. Sudo nmap -sv -sc -vb. And just to make it quicker, I already know the ports I want to give it. So 80 and 8080. And then we just need to pass in the IP as target. So it's just going to grab this IP right here and then just dump it in there. And then we hit enter. And what it's doing right here is it's telling you that, all right, I'm making this folder and inside I'm putting some of the details that I'm going to capture. And then it's just showing you the nmap command that it ran. So I need to give it my password. And it's going to run nmap as you would normally expect. So I'll let it do that for just a minute. I guess I can exit this for now. All right, so nmap is done. And what it tells us right here is where it saved our nmap scan. And then right here, it's saying, I'm going to use this, this folder from seclist as the default credential folder to check if any services match any of the text files located in there. Right here, it is saying these are the ports that I found that are related to HTTP. And then here it does a scrape of those ports. And it just looks for some quick information, like here it gives us the title for port 80 and 8080 Tomcat. And this section right here, it just looks for anything that looks like a version number. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this is Pebbles version 248. It's just looking for anything that looks like v equals 1.1 or version equals 1.1, just anything that looks like a version, so that you have a clue of maybe the type of versions that you're looking for. And then right here, this line in the middle, in this case, it's saying, hey, I found a post form on port 80, and I made a Hydra curl template for you that'll be in the report. So the idea is to review our nmap scan, and we are going to pass in the services that look interesting to us that we would want to research further for enumeration. So in this case, we're going to just pass in Tomcat because we see Tomcat here. And we're going to pass in MySQL, which that is not in the output, but I'm going to pass it in just for an example. And then I'm going to do Apache. So we can see that Apache is here, but we're not going to pass in the version. We're going to just do Apache. So we do enter, and it says Tomcat is going to be very verbose, is what it's telling you. Like there's going to be a lot of output. If you want to go forward, then just go ahead and hit enter. And that's fine, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then it gives us all the searchable results for Tomcat. And then here's additional Tomcat details. So right here, it says, hey, I found some credentials that might match Tomcat. So Tomcat, or admin. These inline default credentials are hard-coded into enumerator.py. So it has a list of a few quick wins that you might be able to use. But if none of these don't work, then it says, hey, look, inside of your seclist folder, you might want to try these files. So inside of default credentials, there's a Tomcat better default pass list.txt, and then the base64 encoded.txt. So you can go to this location in your Kali box and see if that'll help you get into Tomcat. Now, every service that you pass is going to do 3 different web searches and give you the top 3 results. So in this case, it's going to do Tomcat exploits, Tomcat default credentials, and Tomcat exploit GitHub. And then here's the results for exploits. And it just gives you these 3 links. Default credentials, this is what came back. What is the default username and password in Tomcat? You just follow that link. And then same thing for exploit GitHub. And if you wanted to, you can just go check that out and see what happens. So then it moves on to the next service that we gave it, which was MySQL. Same thing. It says, hey, this is going to have a lot of information. Do you want to continue with that, or do you want to edit it? And in this case, we're going to edit it. We're going to say, right now, I don't want all that to come back. So I'm going to do MySQL 5.7, just for example. So we hit enter. We get much fewer results. And then the same thing. It says, hey, it looks like MySQL might have a root username and no password. And if that doesn't work, you might want to try this file inside of seclist. And then it runs the 3 web searches again for MySQL, just to see if any of those work. And then same thing for Apache. So Apache was in our results, but we didn't give it the version. So it's saying, hey, do you want all this data to come back from searchsploit? No, we do not. So we're going to modify that to Apache 2.4.18. Pass that in. And now this is a lot more manageable. And then there's no default credentials that it found for Apache, and it didn't find any files for Apache either. And then again, the same results for exploits, credentials, and GitHub. So once it's done, it's going to put all this information in an Intel folder for you. And it's also going to give you the path for a markdown file. And that's just the easiest way to get to it. So we can look at it, drop it in there, and take a look. So this is just some details about what we did. There's the IP address that was our target, timestamp. This is the seclist folder that it used to try and find matching credentials. These are some of the commands that we ran. We did search exploit against Tomcat, MySQL, and Apache. And then down here is a little more information about those HTTP ports. So it's giving you what it found. The title, every HTTP port, it's going to check a couple of hopefully quick wins: login, admin, robots.txt, sitemap. So here we can see that there were 404s, but it did find a post form. So what it does is it says, hey, here is a potential Hydra command that you can use against this page. Just make sure that you change the fail indicator. So to know what the fail indicator is, it gives you a command to run so that you can do it. I mean, you can always capture it in Burp Suite if you want to, but we will just test this out right here. And then we can see that here's the error that we would use. So incorrect username or password. So we would just take this section right here, drop it in there, and then we can run this Hydra command. What if we had, a users.txt for passwords? Once we have this information, or if we want to just try admin against a couple of passwords, however you want to do it. But here's your template to get that done. And then it does the same thing for port 8080. It gives you some details on it. it checks the same login admin robots.txt. Here just 200 for Tomcat, so we know that 8080 is going to be Tomcat, and the rest is 404. Here's the output for search split for Tomcat. Here are the possible default credentials that we can try. If these don't work, we have this in SecList. We can try these credentials, and again, our websites that we can dig further into. Does it again for the other services we passed in, MySQL, same thing. And then finally, it does it for Apache. And that's it. And then it organizes it for you. And then you can just save this and keep going back to it and hopefully get a good start in your enumeration.